So, the finale just came out, and I personally think it was peak. It is so far my favorite episode of this show. I worked so hard on it, and I loved it so much. But now we've come to our bonus video. Just like last time, I'm going to be ranking all the contestants, all the villains, all the lore characters, like the Fortnite characters and Chris and Chef. I'm going to be ranking all of them based on how well I think I did with them and how well I thought they were in the season. So these are all the characters we're going to be ranking today. We're starting with the Calamity Trio. Then we're going to go into the villains. We're going to move in from that into the staff members and lore characters. Then, right after Lauren, who's kind of a mix of both of those, we're going to go into our full cast. Now, I do want to say there is one new tier, and it's down here, and it's the honorable mentions tier. Everyone here either A, was only a hero in the finale, B, was throughout the season, mainly Tails, Monica, and Izuku, but just didn't do enough for me to feel like they were worthy of being ranked. C is Blake, or who was just around, but not, like, nearly enough. Or D is Azula, Bowser, Elmo, Harley, Rouge, Sonar, and Venom, which are all villains that I just don't think did enough for me to rank them just yet. Maybe Bowser I also considered, but yeah. So we're gonna talk about everyone else. So we got so much to do. The last one was almost an hour long. This one has like twice as many characters, so we're gonna try to just get into it. Marcy. Marcy is the only character from season 1 outside of Ezekiel and Lauren, obviously. The only contestant from season 1 who I decided to re-rank. And that's because in season 1, I said that she could have been better. And the reason I said that is that I just thought I hadn't done enough with her outside of her being part of the MFA, Mega Friendship Alliance. And to be honest, I think this season I did way more with her. You see, the one big change I had this season, which is why I feel like this season turned out better than last season, is I added the Amphibia lore to become a major part of it. And I'll talk more about that with Anne and Sasha, because I didn't even plan on any of these three mattering at all at first. But last season, I had tons of retcons, tons of changes halfway through the season, and there was really a turning point to where I feel like the first half of the season just isn't as great, which is why I plan on remaking it someday. Probably after I finish season 5. I'll remake all the seasons, but they'll be like way higher quality stuff. Maybe with like little animations and like you can see what's going on, visuals, stuff like that. But all that to say, with Marcy herself, I feel like I did her very well. She didn't go through too much of an arc this time. Instead, she was tagging along a little bit with all of the lore characters for a while. But I think her biggest moments were in episode 27, 0 Hour, which, by the way, is named after the Fortnite live event that comes out tomorrow, which I thought was really clever. Anyways, I think that with her, the big moment with her was shooting Sasha in the neck. And then her dealing with that after. I think that the way I handled both her and Anne, I can kind of rank Anne at the same time, because they both literally did about the same thing. The way I did them both was, I'd say, pretty good. I'd say I handled them pretty good. I'm going to say Marcy is a little bit better than Anne, just because she has more connections and stuff, while Anne, I don't think, has been explored to her full potential yet. Yet is the key word. And I think that I think they were both just as good as I could make them be without putting them in the actual season, like as a contestant. So I was really happy with the Amphibia plotline. And due to Andreas being the first villain alphabetically, we can actually just talk about all 4 Amphibia characters at the same time. So now we can move on to Sasha. Sasha was originally going to be just a cool little thing for the Amphibia fans is, oh, since Andreas is gone, now Sasha and Grime and all the Toads have taken over a lot quicker, and it would change the Amphibia story, and you can do with that with what you will. But then after I realized that the third temple, you kind of need Sasha, I thought, oh my goodness, wait, I can add Sasha in. Plus, I knew I was going to do a little more with Andreas, and eventually, she kind of became one of the main characters of our final episode. I really, really liked how I handled Sasha. I'd say even more so than Anne and Marcy, which is interesting because of the 3, I like Sasha a lot, but she's still my least favorite. So, to be honest, I just broke my Bonnie action figure. That's great. To be honest, I'm going to put Sasha and couldn't have handled better. I don't think there's anything I did with Sasha this season that I regret. And there are some for some characters. We'll get into that later. just everything with her arc from going as just, at first when you first meet her, she's this arrogant bully who's now the queen of a place she's not even from and doesn't know what she's really doing, but you can see she has doubts, to, in the final episode, learning her lesson and ending up being the one who saves the multiverse by calming down Sky and telling Sky the situation. Because if that didn't happen, like Sky said, they'd all be dead. Because by the time Sky even learned what was going on, they would have already had too much for Sky to handle. So I'm going to put Sasha in couldn't have been better, in my opinion. Now we have Andreas, and I'm going to put Andreas, as well as a lot of the villains, in our average tier. I feel like Andreas could have had a little bit of a bigger role in this season, personally. But I think that he definitely did a lot more than some of the other villains, even some of the other villains we're ranking today. I think my favorite moments from him were the moments earlier in the season, whenever Marcy figured out what was going on, and he became friends with Bowser, which I promise that'll definitely be a thing next season, Andreas and Bowser's friendship. But I think the other big moments were whenever he manipulated Sasha and then was using the big cannon. I feel like I could have maybe explained his fight with the lore characters, as well as Tails and I think Izuku and Monica. But because in that fight, before the 7 come down, he does kill Tails. But I just didn't really have enough time to, and I still wanted it to come out in a decent time. It premiered at 3:30. It was supposed to premiere at 3, and I'd already been delaying it for a freaking week. So, yeah, I'm going to put Andreas in average. Another person I'm going to put in average, in fact, another few people I'm going to put in average, is actually most of the, well, actually, no. Let me just get every villain that I'm going to put in average here. These are all people that have done a lot, but I don't think they go above average. So, Sin as well as Afton are the only two here that we're ranking, because I'm not ranking Venom, that were in Season 1. And with Sin, I think that Sin, the only major things I did with her is, one, she's part of the reason that Sasha went F it and freaking ripped the box out and left. So by calling her an asset and saying that, talking about Anne and Marcy. But two, the main thing I did with her was kind of tone her down power-wise, which she's still insanely powerful, but like, Sin is easily the most powerful villain outside of Zombie Wanda, which also I kind of toned down a little bit. I don't think that there was a reason for me to put a person who can just spawn black holes everywhere and then say that, oh yeah, we got this. So I did have to tone them down a bit, but they're also not like the main focuses, so I think that's fine. I also had like Superman toned down on the heroes and the Flash toned down on the heroes, so I don't think it was too big of an issue. Still, even then, I think Sky could beat them. Not the Flash, but the villains. Vader. So Vader is someone that, honestly, I kind of expected to have a bit bigger of a role than he did. He's mainly being ranked here because he is a member of this quote-unquote 7. And he's done a lot of the lore, or a lot of the planning for their master plan and all that. He's a very important member of the team, but I don't think he's that important to the overall storyline, but I don't think I did anything wrong with him, so I'm going to put Vader... Actually, I'll move Vader down to could have been better. Then we have Death. Death is kind of like the lesser Malik here. I feel like he was mainly used, one, because I wanted him in Season 3, but two, as a kind of first introduction outside of Malik to the final reality. The final reality was a big part of this season, and will continue to be a big part, especially in Season 5. But I wanted Death here mainly to show that there are multiple areas where, or there are multiple sections of the final reality. It's not all just run under Malik. And to show that there's different like Grim Reapers and stuff. And there still are a lot of other Grim Reapers that we haven't seen yet. But I think that overall, he did quite a bit, but I think Malik did everything he did better. So now we're going to move on to Sloane. Sloane I might also put in could have been better, because one thing that I didn't do that I wish I did is explore Sloane's history with the Jones and Hope and all that back then. So I'm going to do that a lot more in Season 3, but like, for example, I think that if I were to go back and rewrite some of the episodes, I would go in a little more on, for example, in the Sky backstory of the game show finale episode. I think maybe, as well as Midas, Jones, and Hope being there, Sloane would also be there working alongside them, because she used to be on their side. And I think also even earlier, when we first met Sloane in the episode where Jones got his arm cut off, I kept her a little more mysterious than I probably should have, but I think she was still pretty good. And she also is kind of in a Vader way where she was a master planner along with Zomboss. So I'll put them both in could have been better. And then as for Zombie Wanda, she's going in average for the same reason Sin is. She had a couple big moments, such as her moments in the throne room against Anne. But I don't think that. Oh, and Sasha as well. But I don't think that she's done just enough just yet. Her other big moment was what she did with Blake, which I promise as well will come back in season 3. But I don't think that she goes lower, but I don't think she can go higher. So now with our last 5 villains, who do I want to talk about first? I actually think I want to talk about Toga. So I'm going to put Toga in pretty good, just because I feel like she had the most personality shown out of the people that I would say go in average. And I think I just did a lot with her, showing the dynamics of, she's going to kind of represent the MHA reality here. Because the MHA reality is a big, important part, obviously, with Monica being the winner of last season, and Azuka being a major player, Agatha being a major player. Well, Toga is the only League of Villains member who decided to join. And I think that I really did a good job showing off not just her personality, but her dynamics with Azuku and Monica, because that's going to be a big thing going into not just season 3, but season 4 and maybe even season 5 as well. Toga, we're not done with Toga just yet, so I'm going to put her probably near the bottom of pretty good. Now, with our last 5 members, these are the real villains, the people that really mattered throughout the season and really affected game show contestants. I think we'll rank Magica first. So Magica was obviously tied to Lena, and she was a big part of Lena's storyline here. And I think I'm gonna put her at the top of pretty good. I think I showed a lot of her intensity and her personality through her fights with Lena. I think the only thing I could have done a little better is differentiating the fights, because I feel like it started to get a little repetitive near the end, but I do like what I did with her. I do think another thing is that she and the Mimic, I can rank the Mimic as well right now, which I'm going to put right above her in that tier. I love his Pinterest icon, freaking Mr. Beast. But both of them had massive lore implications until they rifted in and joined the rest of the villains. Then I think they took a little bit too much of a backseat, but I really liked how they affected it, especially with the Mimic being the Mimic had the Vanny mask, and the Mimic was Mex's. Then that obviously dealt with Daisy, which by extension was like Puss and Death. Then Grim Foxy was a big important player because of that. If it weren't for him, the Grim Foxy would have never joined the game. So I'd say he goes above Magica for that. But Magica was literally shown in like episode 2 or 3 as a big problem. She was kind of like not really a villain of the season, because she wasn't even in the season, like in the actual game show, but she definitely affected quite a bit. So I think I'm going to put both of them pretty good. As for Malik is, all 3 of these people have been returning, or are returning from season 1. I think I handled Malik. I'm also going to put him even higher. Actually, I'm going to put the Mimic higher than him. I think I handled him great, because since Agatha wasn't really too much of a player, not enough to be ranked at least this time around, I think I was able to expand more on Malik's relationship with other characters. Obviously, he doesn't like Zomboss. A lot of the villain-to-villain relationships will be a season 3 thing, obviously. But his stuff with Death, and obviously the final reality, and I expanded some of his other connections. I kind of humanized him a little bit, like how he knows Malevola, and that's how Sonar was allowed to join, and all that kind of stuff. I think I did a really good job with that. And then, but not to mention, Daisy and Guinevere's, or mainly Daisy's plotline, getting manipulated by him. Oh, and the Puss in Boots thing, which made Puss canonically dead. Puss is the only character who's, like, actually dead. Like, he's gone. His reboot card has expired. It's over. So, yeah, I think that Malik was definitely one of the biggest villains of the season, one of the ones who affected the most, and I really loved how I handled him. In fact, you know what? I will put him above that. So then we get Afton, William Afton. So after getting Spring Locked last time, and changed into Spring Trap instead of just Spring Bonnie, I think that he's been a pretty good player. He obviously affected some of the stuff with Mex's and the Mimic whenever he originally tried to gain the Mimic's trust. But I think he did a little bit less than Magica, Mimic, and Malik. So I'm gonna put him at the very top of average. I'm also going to do this. I'm just putting Sen above Wanda because I like Sen more. They're equal in my eyes. So yeah, but we have our last big villain. I'm sure the main event here is the contestants, which is why I'm leaving them for last. So our last main villain is the main villain of the entire series, which is Dr. Zomboss, or, as you'll know from Season 1, the head scientist. I think in this season, he's been pretty important, but I'd say he wasn't as good as he was in season 1 because I wanted to focus a lot more on other villains. So he's kind of the mastermind, but I'd say I'm gonna put him right above Toga, maybe above Anne. I'll put him above Anne, but not Marcy. Because well, I mean it's one of the or it's all or none. Yeah, I'll put him right here because I feel like he did a lot storyline wise, but like it wasn't really too much. I think the only times where you really got to see him being himself were whenever he was interacting with Chris, because they still have their rivalry, which they will have for a long time. But I think that I still handle him pretty good, which is why he's in the pretty good tier. So then we get to our Fortnite squad. Yeah, let's start with Hope and Jones. These two, I think in like average or pretty good tier last time, because they weren't really explored that much, but they were definitely important lore characters. This time around, mainly due to Sky, who is one of the last people we're going to be getting into. I have a lot to say about her, obviously. She was almost the winner. Definitely the main character of the season. These two have skyrocketed. I think I handled them both great. I'm going to put Hope over Jones, though, because with Jones, he was more so the comedic relief there. He did get his arm cut off and had this stuff with Sloan, but like I said, I think that should have been explored more, and it might be explored more in season 3. But I think that I handled it pretty good. On the other hand, Hope, I have done so much more with Hope this time around. Her relationship with Sky and the way it concluded last episode, I thought was handled amazingly, in my opinion. Her being at fault, technically, she's the reason all of this has happened. It's Hope's fault. So, by shooting Ollie. So, I really like Hope a lot more than I liked Jones in this. The only thing I haven't explored with Hope, though, which I will explore eventually, but it probably won't be as big as it is in the actual Fortnite storyline, is Hope has these things. She can have visions where her brain will like make her spray paint these paintings, or just paint these paintings, but normally it's like spray paint, like graffiti. And those spray paints, they can predict the future. So I've kind of left that out just because I feel like it would harm the storyline right now, but I might add that to her character at some point. Okay, so we've been yapping for 20 minutes. Before we get to the 30-minute mark and I have to reset my recording, I want to at least get through these last 4 so we can talk about the contestants. Midas. So Midas is somebody that's been getting mentioned all the way back since the end of season 1, but I didn't decide to give him a Pinterest icon until now. I love Midas, and that's the main reason he kept getting references, but I just felt like he needed to get more involved instead of just getting referenced over and over. And trust me, we're not done with him. So he's kind of been portrayed as this like sly, mischievous dude who we don't really know a lot about. He has gold powers because he's Midas, like the ancient story, but he's like a younger, more quippier version of him. I'm gonna put him in here right below Afton, just because I feel like I haven't done too much with his character yet. There's a lot more potential there for backstory and stuff. But I'm glad that I was actually able to make him affect more. But again, like I didn't even give him an icon until like last episode or the episode before, because he was originally not gonna be that big of a character, and he probably won't even be a big of a character. He'll just kind of be around until like season 4. So let's get into Peely. Peely, the guy who was originally supposed to make it insanely far in season 1 and ended up being the second boo. Peely. So, where do I put Peely? I've kind of made Peely's personality become more of like this keeper of the secrets of the multiverse now, which I think was a good evolution of his character. But he definitely took a backseat for Hope and Jones and Sky this time around. So I think that I might need to add a new tier between pretty good and average, because like a math tier, because this one's going to get filled up. But I think I'm going to put Peely kind of here. He really was not the main focus of the entire show. He had the last line of the show whenever he smacked his KSI-sized forehead. But I think that we're kind of getting to the point where I'm kind of done with his character. He's still going to be around, but he's not going to be doing too much else, because I feel like he was mainly supposed to serve as the introduction to the Fortnite side of the lore, right? Because the main universe's lores that have mattered so far have been the Fortnite lore, the FNAF lore, the Plants vs. Zombies lore, and the Amphibia lore, all of which are some of my favorite things ever. Those are all my favorite. My favorite game series. My second favorite game series, and Amphibia is tied with Owl House for my favorite shows, even over Total Drama and Dissension Camp, which those lores have also mattered a lot. But so then we get to Chris and Chef, our original hosts, and I want to start with Chef. Chef got to host a challenge this season, mainly because I wasn't going to use him too much. He's kind of serving as the brawn to this core team, at least in season 2, up until we had like all the heroes come back. He was the big brawn. Him and Chris have had a lot of bromance moments, bromance, not romance, and they will continue to have a big big setup with that in season 3. Along with meeting a old friend. Well, I wouldn't say friend, but an old character that will come back in season 3. But I think for season 2, I'm gonna put him not in could have handled better, but I'm gonna put him at the bottom of average because he really didn't do too much outside of the very, very beginning of this season. So as for Chris was the host of like the first half of this season before eventually going on his journey and making Lauren the host. Now, I wasn't planning on Chris actually, originally I wasn't planning on Chris actually leaving and making Lauren the host as early as I did, but I feel like it was definitely a good change, a welcome change, because Chris has been the host in this timeline of 8 seasons of Total Drama. So we've kind of maxed out. He started out as a normal, albeit kind of asshole kind of dude, then slowly became more and more deranged, and stayed that deranged, but you couldn't even really tell in Total Drama Multiverse Season 1 because everything around him was so deranged. He kind of was in his element. And then now that he has his bond with Chef, as well as mainly his kids, Lauren and Ezekiel, he's kind of humanized and come back down to earth and become more of a good person. But I think Chris is kind of done with his character for a lot. We're going to focus more on Chef next time we meet up with them. But I think this season, the main things that we're still going to have with Chris is his rivalry with Zomboss. This season, I'm gonna put him right here above Peely and above Toga. I think that's a good spot for him because like even while he was the host, there wasn't too much that he actually did. I will say I really liked him in episode 1, his talk with Lauren, and really all his interactions with Lauren and Ezekiel, because I kind of made Ezekiel go down more of the route for his own character of getting a bunch of friends, his girlfriend, all that, while Lauren got the family, both things that they desperately needed. Ezekiel to not be a shit person, and Lauren to not be a depressed person. So, with a basically the same thing Gabby has inside her head. So, yeah. Okay, so now we've come to the actual cast. And I love this cast. Guys, I was a little worried after Season 1 that Season 2's cast wouldn't click as much as Season 1 cast would. But I was so wrong. I really loved how it turned out. I love so many of the characters here's arcs, and I can't wait to talk about them. Even some of the people who didn't get as much. But we'll first start with Lauren. Everyone here is in alphabetical order except her because she became a host halfway through. So first I want to talk about her in the first few episodes. We're obviously not including her stuff from Season 1, but in the first few episodes of Season 2 where we learned about her anxiety more and just more about the real Lauren, not Scary Girl, right? Because, dude, sometimes I forget Scary Girl's even like what people call her. So when I see clips from the reboot, I'm confused. But I think Lauren was handled really well there. I already went into this with Chris a little bit, but her relationship with Chris. And then we move into the beginning of the game show. Those few episodes, I think up until like episode 10 or so, somewhere around there, when Lauren was eliminated, I really loved how she had her immediate connection, and you could definitely tell there was an immediate favoritism between Chris and Lauren. But also with Lauren having her immediate connection with Lena and Tristan. 2 people, especially Tristan, that Ezekiel would not like, and with Ezekiel now getting in good with Patrice, who used to hang out more with Lauren, and now they both kind of feel like they're separating from each other, but they both don't really want to. But Ezekiel starts to get salty about it, and Lauren starts to get salty about it. And I think overall, I really loved how that brother-sister dynamic came out with them both respecting each other in the end, mainly due to Tristan and Patrice being the ones to pull them together and get them out of hating each other. Which, honestly, I find this really funny that I'm so happy with how they both turned out as brother and sister, because I actually had a plan of shipping them. I changed the plan while I was making episode 1 of the season, but like when I made the cast, and brought them both back the second time, that was the plan, to ship them. I'm so happy I didn't do that, because that really would have been a lot worse. They wouldn't have had a lot of chemistry compared to like Ezekiel and Patrice, for example. And overall, I think that would have really ruined at least Lauren, but probably Ezekiel as well as character, as well as harmed people like Patrice and Tristan. So overall, I'm actually going to put Lauren right here. I loved Lauren this season. She makes a great host because I think now that she's gone through her arc in season 1 and 2, she's lowered down to someone who's still chaotic and crazy and dangerous, but someone who can be serious when she needs to be, and someone who I think is the perfect medium middle ground for a host of something this insane, right? Because Total Drama Multiverse is objectively insane. And unlike Chris, who his crazy match, I think Lauren, her crazy might actually bring down some of the other people's crazy, not because she's more crazy than them, but because she knows where they're coming from, especially with Total Drama, or Total Villain Multiverse, which will be the name of Season 3, Total Villain Multiverse. Kind of like My Villain Academia, that's kind of where I got that idea. But anyways, I think that will kind of come into play more. So I'm really excited for what I'm going to do with Lauren, but I've also loved what I've done with Lauren already. So I'm going to put her in Couldn't Have Been Better. So then we come to Alice. Alice is a bit of an interesting one. She's, in my opinion, I've kind of viewed Alice as a Joe. So Alice is kind of a villain of the season, or more so an antagonist than an outright villain. She's an asshole. She's kind of the Jinx of the season, but she lasted longer because she's not as insane as Jinx. Though she still is crazy. I liked her stuff with Six. I liked her stuff with Patrice and Sky, because she's part of the reason. That's probably her biggest contribution to this season, is that she's one of the main reasons why Sky and Patrice hated each other so much, because of that big three-girl argument in that episode. And then her stuff with Mel definitely helped Mel's arc. I will say, when we get to Mel, that it really wasn't until after Alice got eliminated that Mel really started going her arc, but it definitely helped the beginning of her arc. But overall, I'm going to say Alice was, I don't know. I think she's going to go, if we're talking more so in terms of average contestant, I think I might put her, I'm going to put her in average. I think she was pretty good, but I could have done a little more with her to put her on a little more of an arc on her own. She kind of, like I said, felt like the Jax or the Jinx of the season. But I might move her up later. Ash. So I'm actually going to bring Tootie up to talk about at the same time as Ash, because both of these two I thought were great after their spell with Daisy was broken. Because I feel like once they were in that spell, it helped Daisy a lot, and we'll talk a lot about Daisy. But I think that it kind of harmed them both, and to the point where the main times I was talking about these two in particular was when I kept reminding y'all that, by the way, these guys aren't mindless slaves. They're still them, because I did nothing with them until after Daisy was, or until after a few episodes before Daisy was out. Then after that, Ash kind of went on a mix of Peter and Dipper's kind of arc, while Tootie kind of went on his old man arc. But overall, I think that for Tootie, I'm going to put him in average behind Alice, because I feel like, oh, well, no, I'm not, because I have a little more to say about Tootie than Ash. For Ash, I'm going to put him behind Afton, because I think with Ash, yeah, he did pretty good, but he made Final 3. He made 3rd place. And while I think his breaking the alliance with Sky and all that was good, I feel like he did not do nearly enough to justify that. But with Tootie, I just did remember 2 other big moments. One is his stuff with him and Jack, who we'll get to Jack later. I'm sure some of y'all forgot Jack was even in the season, because some of the pre-merge booths have literally just not been in the storyline. Literally not. Some of them weren't even in the final battle. But overall, I think that was pretty good with Tootie, with his eyes being black and then turning white once Jack swapped him back in, because Tootie was eliminated like really early, and then Jack swapped himself out for Tootie, and that's what made Tootie's eyes white. And then after he left the radius of the spell, and the spell was broken, his eyes turning back to black, and then him coming in to try and really starting the downfall of Daisy by getting people to start disliking her more and affecting it even though he wasn't in the game. I think that was a lot better. So actually taking that into account, I'm going to put him right here. I'm also going to move Chris a little higher than Marcy and Anne. But overall, I think that now that I remember that, I think Tootie did a pretty good job. So then we have Bruce. Bruce was definitely a big strategist, a big game player this season. And I think a lot of people were expecting him to go farther. I just struggled to find a arc with Batman, right? Because Batman is such a well-established character that he almost became kind of like Peter, Spider-Man. There's so much you can do with them to the point where I almost didn't know what to do with him. And I ended up just making him a massive strategist, which I think was really good. And he definitely contributed a lot to Sky's arc, as well as a few others. But I think that I got him out at a pretty good time, and he was mainly the person to establish that, all right, we're starting to get bigger characters out here in the merge. As an early merge move, I think that is a good place for him to go. But overall, I think there is probably other stuff I could do with him. I didn't really explore like his past or his relationship with Harley after seeing Harley at the final battle, which I should have probably done because same with Harley. Like Harley didn't even do enough this time around to get ranked. But overall, I think I'm gonna put him. He's kind of like the opposite of 2D. So I'll put him right above 2D. Yeah. So then we have Captain Underpants, a joke character who made it further than I initially expected him to. So I liked Captain Underpants. He made it to episode 8. I was expecting him to be like one of the first 3 boots, but he kind of served as a tool to Alice. Once she learned that her ink can swap him between Captain Underpants and Snapping can swap him between Mr. Krupp and all that. But I feel like when it comes to him on his own, one thing I didn't explore enough and probably won't get the chance to explore that much is the fact that I kind of made it a little darker with Captain Underpants wanting to fully remove himself from Mr. Krupp and vice versa. Now, Captain Underpants was in the finale, but he was in Captain Underpants mode that entire time, until he hit the waters of outside Utopia City and then ended up getting zombified. But he was brought back after that. And I don't really know. Maybe at some point I'll bring him back to try to give him a better ending, because he still does go back to his reality, just kind of being in the same area where he started. So with him, I'm actually going to put him in Could Have Been Better, way behind the other two, though. I'm not going to put him in Didn't Handle Well, though. So then we come to the Collector. Now, the Collector is very weird for me. I'd say the Collector is the weirdest character on this entire season, and one of the weirdest so far, because the Collector was actually going to be a character that I used in Season 4. I was going to use him, or Season 3, I should say, not Season 4. I was going to use him to be kind of the light in all this darkness with all these villains. But then I made him get redeemed and become a good guy literally in, not even halfway through Season 2. So, because of that, I kind of didn't know what to do with him, but I knew I wanted him to become a person who, actually mattered to the game show, because I like the Collector a lot, and I think the Collector has a lot of potential. So, I decided to add the Collector, along with Grimm, who I already planned on adding, into the game show. Then the Collector got out really early, before the merge happened. He was eliminated right before the merge. And didn't come back because I wanted Tristan to come back, and a lot of other people wanted Tristan to come back. So I mean, he affected a few things. He caused a few votes to sway that wouldn't have swayed him originally, but I almost feel that I should not have introduced the Collector as early as I did, so that the Collector could have been in Season 3. I don't really know when I'm going to bring the Collector back, though. And when I say when I'm bringing someone back, I'm not even just saying as a contestant. I'm just saying in general. I don't really know when that's going to happen. So I'm going to put the Collector in could have handled better. Overall, I think that's what I'm going to do. So then we come to our main villain of Season 2, Daisy. And holy crap, did Daisy go through a lot. She came in as kind of this selfish but also sad princess who has always lived in Peach's shadow and immediately hated Guinevere. And up until the stuff with Malik and Vanny and all that started happening, she was just gonna be a bit of a sugar but good. Actually a good character. But then I put her in the Malik storyline, and I put her in the Vanny storyline, and she became, she got part of the team of villains, and Daisy has been through so much I'm not even going to talk about all of it outside of her game show stuff, because I've already talked about it a lot with the other villains. She is the reason Puss is dead. Another contestant on the show with her is gone, permanently. So I think Daisy honestly might have been put in a little too much. And that's why I'm going to put her at handled great at the top of it, but not and couldn't have handled better. Because I feel like Daisy, it was like kind of overwhelming, even to me, so I'm sure it was to y'all, to try to juggle all these problems. And I think that I'm really going to have to wrap up a lot of that with her confronting all her demons, literally with Malik and figuratively with herself, with like whenever she was attacking Peach and all that, next season. Because she's changed sides in the finale, but she hasn't been redeemed yet. So I think that Daisy is someone who I think handled great, was a great villain, but just had a little too much. And it's definitely a character that needs to come back. And will be coming back. So then we come to Ezekiel. Ezekiel made it very far. And I am very happy with how I handled Ezekiel as well. So Ezekiel was someone who I originally added back in Season 1 along with Lauren, with plans of just not having them get too far, but I knew I wanted them to matter. And they ended up getting eliminated on a double elimination where they barely even interacted with each other. And then they came back a little bit. They mattered a little bit throughout there. But then eventually they're both adopted by Chris. And then we get into Season 2 where I gave Lauren a lot of the focus in those beginning episodes, with Ezekiel's main thing being talking to Patrice and befriending Patrice. Which I could bring Patrice up right now, but Patrice has a lot on her own. So with Ezekiel, I'll just talk about him. I think that ship is my favorite ship I've done so far. Last season, the only ship we had was Izuku and Monica, and while I think that ended in a pretty good spot and has lasted pretty good in Season 2 and will be good throughout the next few seasons, as I do plan on those people coming back in other times, I think that the beginning was a little rough, as was the beginning of the whole show, and I don't think that was the best. And then the only other major ship that's happened is Samus and Steve, and that was more so a Jeff and Bridget joke thing. So yeah. So for Ezekiel and Patrice, I loved that. I loved Ezekiel's relationship with Lauren. I've already gone into that quite a bit. But the main thing I want to talk about when we're talking about Ezekiel is his stuff with Tristan. And I actually think I'm going to bring Tristan up right now, and then I can rank these two at the same time so we can talk about Sky last. Tristan is a character that when I brought into the season, I kind of did it for two reasons. One, because I love Tristan. I love Tristan's character. I thought that it was done pretty well. The arc was done pretty well throughout all of DC4, and I really hope Tristan comes back in a second chance season someday. I guess three reasons. The second reason is I wanted a Disventure Camp character, and I was originally going to do Isabel, but she was still in the game show at the time that I started this cast, so I didn't want, in the Disventure Camp game show, so I didn't want things to change and then it to not fit her character anymore. But the third reason was kind of, to be honest, a little bit of a safety net, as I had Trump in the first season. And I've been told by a few people that they would have watched the first season if Trump wasn't in it, which I personally find stupid. But I mean, I watched Disventure Camp. So I thought that was a little dumb, but I really wanted to do a thing with Ezekiel and Tristan too. So I was thinking about just having 20 people, but I originally changed it, or I added Tristan. My final thing, because I've been going back and forth on Tristan. My final thing was a major event that happened in September that I'm not going to talk about, but it definitely heated things in real life a lot, and it affected me a lot. So I wanted to kind of express that somehow, and the way I did that was by bringing out Ezekiel and Tristan and making them become friends in the end. And because they're both very, very different people, but they were able to look past their differences and become good with each other and even become friends. Not everyone is going to become friends per se, but they were at least able to accept each other's differences and not just downright hate each other. Because especially with Ezekiel, his problem was judging too early, and Tristan's problem was not speaking up for Tristan's self. Whenever Lauren was just telling Tristan to just not even interact with Ezekiel. So then with Tristan as well, I think that the plotline with the father and all that was done pretty well. It was very dark, but I think it was done pretty well. Better than it was done in Tom Jake with that whole father plotline. But overall, I do think that I really loved how I handled both of them, and I'm actually going to be putting both of them in Couldn't Have Been Better. So yeah, I really liked how their whole plotline turned up. I'm gonna put Ezekiel just above Tristan, just because I like Ezekiel a little more. But I think that what I did, my vision after that major event, what I did with it in season 2 was very good, and I think that a lot of people really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people were rooting for Tristan and Ezekiel. So yeah, overall, they're both going and could have been better, even over Lauren. So then we get to Goofy, and Goofy is going to be our first character that goes and didn't handle well. Guys, the problem with Goofy is I did nothing with him. Like, he is the Stacy of Total Drama Multiverse. He came in, had like 2 funny jokes, and left, and never came back. And I don't know if he ever will come back, because I literally added him in because I wanted a Mickey Mouse rep. I knew this was probably going to be the only time I could get a Mickey Mouse rep in here, because I feel like that's a big part of my childhood that I needed to add, especially after I added Applejack last time. I could have added Lightning McQueen, but I just don't think that would have really worked. But Mickey Mouse, I think, would have turned into just Elmo again, because I planned on whoever the Mickey Mouse rep was to get out pretty early. So I turned from that to Goofy, skipping Pluto, because he's my one of my favorites as well. But I decided to use Goofy, but there was literally nothing I could have done with Goofy. And also there were so many characters who I wanted to at least go through like mini arcs, like Jack, for example. So I didn't really do anything with Goofy. And then he never affected any of the lore stuff. He never came back in the final battle. It's just like, I don't think that he was even really worth talking about. Like, I almost didn't rank him. The only reason I'm even ranking him is because he was a contestant. But then we move on to Grim Foxy, or just Grim for short. So Grim Foxy is my favorite, design-wise, my favorite FNAF animatronic. I obviously like Springtrap and Golden Freddy more, but design-wise, he's my favorite FNAF animatronic. And I planned on adding in a new person, kind of in a Agatha kind of way, once the merge hit. I didn't originally plan on having the Collector come back, but I did want Grim Foxy in. I don't know, I feel like it probably was a little bit of a bad idea, just because that made Fritz, or normal Foxy, from last season, just obsolete. I actually thought about not doing him and then having Foxy come back, or Fritz, I'm just going to say Fritz, come back, and then Fritz being returning to the game and going on more of an arc of his own, because I feel like Fritz does deserve a little more. But Fritz didn't even come back in the final battle, so I might have to do more with Fritz. But when it comes to actual Grim, I think Grim came back, and not only did he literally have a relationship with Bruce, but I think that he kind of became a Bruce. And I'm gonna put him in Bruce, but I'm gonna put him next to Bruce, but a little higher, because he kind of became Bruce 2.0. But then also he has way more lore relevance with him. If it weren't for him knowing the Vanny mask, that would have played out way differently. Other things are him in the episode where the Collector flipped. In that episode, if it weren't for him, a lot of things would have changed. And he's definitely a pretty important character. I don't think I showed a little bit of his personality here and there, but I don't think he really went on too much of an arc of his own. Outside of now, he's free from that stupid VR reality. So then we get to Guinevere. Now, Guinevere is a very weird one for me as well, because Guinevere, I had to do all the heavy lifting on Guinevere. Because literally one episode of Knights of Guinevere had released like maybe 5 days before I released the first episode of Total Drama Multiverse, the casting call, Reloaded. And in that, we literally don't learn like almost anything about Guinevere. We're spending most of the time world building, and we probably won't get another episode of Knights of Guinevere till, honestly, probably after Total Drama Multiverse is completely over. So, because I don't think we'll get one until like near the end of 2026, whenever the full show gets greenlit and all that. So, at first, I kind of expected her to be a bit of an early boot, and she was kind of still an early boot, but ever since I changed her icon to the effed up version of her, I've loved her character. I really loved her character in the finale, and she definitely was originally going to be a plot device for Daisy, and be like one of the first boots, but I really like what I did with her overall. She also had her thing with Bruce and the illusion disc, and then the mascot had as well, which I thought was really well done, in my opinion. I'm spending a lot. This might just sound like me glazing myself, by the way, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm kind of just going through my thoughts for myself as well, and not just for you guys, so that I can better these characters when they return in the future, and also just better my writing. It brings a lot of things that I wouldn't have thought about to my attention. So I'm going to put Guinevere pretty high. I'm also going to move Chris even higher. But I just think I might even put her like here, because she was part of that whole plotline as well. She continued to affect things all the way till really Daisy's elimination episode, with her helping 2D and all that. And also I just like the concept of her a lot, and I like what I did with her a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and put her near the top of pretty good. So then we get to Jack, and Jack is going to go and could have been better. I'm actually going to put him right here. Jack comes from my favorite band ever, AJR. He's the second real person that I've put in this entire series, and honestly, he's probably the last, because the only other person I've considered, I don't think I'm gonna do. So, yeah. Unless I could see myself doing a total drama YouTuber at some point. I think that'd be pretty funny. But I think I misrepresented Jack a little bit. Jack is a real human being, and in this, I kind of made him a bit of an asshole. Like, I get that was part of his arc, was that he was jealous of Tootie not being in a super overhated band. And I mainly did that because in real life, AJR is one of the most overhated bands in the history of freaking music. I don't know why, but they are very, very overhated. But he kind of became a little too mean, and I think that might just be a little bit of because he was with like Alice and all those douchebags. But I think that I could have made him a little nicer. And then he had his talk with Ryan, which I think was pretty good. And then him flipping with 2D was pretty good. But then after that, Jack kind of vanished. He literally didn't appear after that because I obviously had no reason for him to, especially in like the he got kind of cooked in the comeback challenge, and then in the finale, what is a normal human gonna do? So overall, I think I probably could have handled Jack better. Okay, so then we get to Jin Woo. And Jin Woo, I added mainly for two reasons. One, the obvious reason, I loved Solo Leveling. It's my second favorite anime after MHA, and I thought it was great. But two is I wanted Jin Woo to kind of serve as one of the first few obstacles to really show Sky's power. And that was mainly shown in the comeback episode. And I really liked that. I think that's Jin Woo's best episode, and I really liked it for Sky as well. It's crazy how many of these characters I've talked about where I've mentioned Sky in them. It just shows how much Sky was involved, yeah? But with Jin Woo, I liked how he started off super weak and then slowly got stronger and stronger. He had his little friendship with Ash that didn't last too long. And at first he started to become kind of like an asset to Bruce. I'd say if Grim Foxy's a second Bruce, this guy's almost a third Bruce. After he had gone past his stages of just being super weak. But he started to get sick of all that. And then in the comeback episode, went way too far against Sky. And they had their huge fight. And I loved that. I loved the way that was handled. And I think that after that, if it weren't for that happening, the Alliance would have freaking blown up. Which caused a lot. Like, I mean, it sent all three, Jin Woo, Bruce, and Grim were all sent home. And that caused, like, the Alice, Sky, Patrice drama to happen. And by extension, a lot of other things. So Jin Woo crashing out definitely was a big moment for him. But I also did kind of leave him out of the finale a bit because I didn't want him to kind of take the place of Sky. I didn't want him to steal Sky's thunder. That's the main reason I had the idea, one of the main reasons I had the idea of Malik and Death's trapping people in the final reality, is that he's kind of OP. Like, Steve is OP, and Peter's OP, and the Collector is OP, which honestly I kind of wish I didn't hide the Collector, because I feel like the Collector should have done more in the finale. But Jin Woo is, like, insane. Like, he could have easily also, this would be a big problem, I wanted all these people to come back. Imagine Jin Woo kills Andreas, and then takes him and puts Andreas under his control as a summon. Then Andreas is going to stay as a summon for Jin Woo. So I didn't really do as much there for him, but I feel like he definitely served his purpose while in the game, and his big moments were definitely in the comeback episode, and I loved that for him. So overall, I'm going to put him at the top of average. So then we get to Lena, and Lena, like Magica, I'm actually going to put her right above Magica, because they're my only big complaints for both of them is that Lena felt a little repetitive, and so did Magica. But I think that the reason Lena's above Magica is because Lena also affected a bit of the Lauren, Tristan, Patrice, Ezekiel drama, which was one of the biggest parts of the season, right? It was that drama and then all the stuff that had to do with Sky, which is what ended up getting Patrice and Sky to the finale. And I think that she was definitely the least impactful part of that, because she spent a lot of the time dealing with her own problems. But I think that it definitely was still pretty good. And then I think that the reason I'd say Alice is almost a villain, but not a full-on villain, is because her moment where she gets Lena medevaced, which is one of the craziest moments in the show. Definitely my favorite moment from Alice. Now, I will say the one thing with that is I did have to kind of add the thing where the one-ups can't cure certain sicknesses. I kind of add that mid-episode because I genuinely forgot that the one-up mushrooms were there. So I just kind of make an excuse, but I do plan on explaining that more and making that a bigger part later. So I'm gonna put Lena right there. I'm actually gonna move Malik up to handle great, by the way, and Guinevere. So then we move on to Mel, and Mel is a weird one as well. So Mel is kind of like Ash and Tootie, but better, because Mel didn't really do a lot outside of the very beginning and then near the end of the season. At first, she fell in with Alice because she found another black blood, which in her reality, humans, which she don't look like it, but she is a human, they bleed black blood. And she eventually found out Alice wasn't a human, or at least entirely a human, but she didn't care. And she kind of became just a secondary Alice, a lesser Alice. But after she crashed out and began flipping a lot, she kind of got that Dipper strategy. Alice got eliminated, and we got to see a lot more of her as we kind of got to see her temper and how it obviously gets her into a lot of bad places. But we kind of ended the season with my only big complaint with Alice is she doesn't really have anyone. And I don't really remember where I sent her, but I think that I'm going to try to put her in a happier reality if we ever come back to Mel, because she's kind of in the same scenario as she was at the beginning. She made friends with Alice in 6 and then lost them. So if anything, she's just more sad and more mad and more salty now that her Dipper plan didn't work, just like it didn't work last time, because flipping should never work, Logan. But overall, I thought, oh, also, by the way, Mel is in the exact same scenario as Guinevere, where only one episode was out, although that episode came out like near the beginning of season 1 of the Gaslight District, of the Total Drama Multiverse. The first episode of Gaslight District came out, but I didn't watch it until like a week or two before I watched Guinevere, so like 2 weeks before I watched the season, or I made the season. So I'm gonna put her at the top of average, maybe behind Jin Woo. I'm also going to move. I'm also gonna put. I'm gonna move a couple people above the Mimic up here. Well, no, I just want to do this. Maybe. Chris has gone up so far from where I originally ranked him. But then we get up to Patrice. And Patrice, along with Sky, are our last two characters that are going to be and couldn't have been better. So I knew with Patrice that after the Plants vs. Zombies reality became a big thing, with the main villain of the show becoming Zomboss, I knew that I was going to have to bring in one of the book characters and make him a main character of season 2. Now, I didn't know whether to make it Patrice or Nate, but I decided on Patrice because I felt Patrice would fit more into the MFA with Luz and all that, and I think that she would fit more just with the other cast, which I was definitely right, as she became a ship with Ezekiel. So, with Patrice, I think that throughout the season, the only complaint I'd give Patrice is that she kind of didn't do a lot with her zombie backstory. I'd say the main part for that was during the Halloween special, whenever Bruce dressed up as a zombie and it freaked Patrice out. But that wasn't as big a deal until also the finale, where she was talking into the confessional. But I think that she definitely helped on the Ezekiel, Tristan, Lauren arc as well, being a main player. She got along with Tristan, as I just think they would both have a lot of chemistry. And she was able to bring these two together, so she was definitely very important. Now, I think she definitely deserved the win. I was, again, just like last time when I was going back and forth on Luz and Monica, I was going back and forth on Patrice and Sky. But I think that I like Patrice's win a lot more for two reasons. One, I didn't want Patrice to become a second Luz, where she would be another member of the MFA who made it to second place and then got eliminated. I feel like a member of the MFA had to make it far, considering that a lot of the MFA members are pretty early boots already. So then the other reason is Sky getting second was able to lead us into some of my favorite lore ever. Now, something that I will say for Patrice and for Sky is they both made it so far because I was able to do so much with them. I was able to really make them my own. Because with Patrice, she has like hints of a personality, and especially if you're including her book counterpart, she has quite a bit of personality. But she still has a lot of areas where we don't really know that much about her. So putting her in the super dark scenario is really able to make her my own. And then as for Sky, she literally has no personality outside of the fact that we know there's some history between her and Ollie, and we know she's a gamer, and also she owns the shark and is a member of Ghost, the faction. None of which is canon in my universe. I mean, outside of the fact that she's a gamer and she has history with Ollie, but I actually made that history. But like all the Ghost and Shadow stuff, it's not canon. At least Sky's not canon to it. It might become more canon later as some more backstory for Midas, because he was the main part of that whole scenario in the Fortnite lore. But yeah. But again, I keep talking about Sky instead of the other characters. So for Patrice, even though she is the winner, I'm going to put her in here. I do want to say there is a very big drop-off between these four and Sasha. But I still think that Sasha deserves to be here. She just obviously didn't have nearly as much as the others. Moving on to our final five. Definitely not our final five of the show, though, because all five of them outside of Sky are pretty early boots. We have Puss, who is dead. He is just straight up gone. Now, Puss is actually a pretty interesting one to talk about, as he was kind of going to be another Goofy. So when I originally added Puss, I mainly added him because I wanted an animated movie rep, since I couldn't add Lightning McQueen. And I loved Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, outside of like the Spider-Verse films. But he was kind of going to be a Goofy because he really wasn't going to do much at all. He was what, like the second or third boot? And I saw outcry of people in the comments saying that they wanted more Puss. And I was like, okay, I'll give him the storyline by tying him into what I already planned to do with Daisy and Malik. I plan on having Malik come back through Daisy. So I added Puss into that by saying that he ran into the woods. He didn't just go home. So after that, I kind of just kept him around until I decided to use him as the Daisy sacrifice. And after Mexus was in Daisy's head, I let it happen. And then in the final reality, he was there, and Malik and Death were fighting over him. And while they were fighting over him, he got pulled out. But since he got pulled out and he was already dead, he got pulled out of the final reality. He died, and he went to which way would I think he would go? I think Puss. He got married or he was gonna get married in the chapel. But I think he probably went up instead of down. Because after the final reality is just like your typical heaven and hell, right? So he goes there, and he's gone. Like, he's done, bro. He might, if he does appear, it won't be till the end of Season 5. But we'll see. So, overall, I'm gonna put Puss, he kind of became a little bit of a plot device, but I'm gonna put Puss in, where am I gonna put Puss? I'll put him at, I'm gonna put him where I put the other kind of plot devices. I'm gonna put him above Ash. No, I'm not. I'll put him right behind, right there. I think that's the perfect spot for Puss in Boots. So then we come to Samus and Steve. And Samus and Steve are kind of a 2-for-1 deal. And I think that they're kind of like Goofy, but a little better. Both of them actually were in the finale. Both of them are better characters. And both of them ended up getting together, which did kind of have some plot. But it was really just as an excuse so that whenever the Smash Bros. Thing happened, I could have their double elimination feel more connected and have them both do a little more before their double elimination early in the season. Because when both of them quit, it was mainly to have lore characters that I knew, I guess game show characters that I knew I wanted to go far, and not get eliminated early. So I think it was mainly Daisy, I'm pretty sure, was the one that would have gone home really early had they not quit. So yeah, I decided that would be good. I also thought that I use them as a bit of a plot device, so that Steve and Samus are both characters that are in Smash Bros. And they get the Smash Ladder. But Daisy, who is also in Smash Bros., doesn't get the Smash Ladder because she's not popular enough, which really damaged her ego back then. Well, I guess not even her ego, but it made her more resentful back then. So when it comes to these characters, I think that both of them are. I think Samus would have kind of turned into another Bruce. In fact, I almost considered having that happen, but I didn't, thankfully. While Steve would have never been anything more than just someone who carries that team and also someone who's a joke character. So I think that I handled them in the average tier. I'm going to have them go right here. They'll still go above. I like Steve more than Samus. So they'll still go above Chef, because Chef did not do well. No, Chef can go above them. So then we have Six. Six was a very weird character. She's not someone who I can really give an arc because she's so already just like effed up. I don't know what I just did. I don't think y'all can see that, but on my screen, my freaking computer just went insane. But I don't think you can really give her like a character development because she can barely talk. She can, she's incredibly screwed up in the head. She's like 6 inches tall. So I ended up kind of making her not really Alice's minion, but kind of Alice and Mel's friend as well. That was kind of a trio, but it slowly broke apart after Alice misunderstood 6, just like Alice misunderstood Mel, but this time actually 6 got out instead of Alice. And I think that 6 was good. She did what she had to do. She definitely affected characters like Lena and Patrice whenever she freaking killed them during the, what was it, peak performance, I think, so like episode 3 or 4. So I think that she's a character that she comes back in the finale, and she also gets her character development. I guess I did give her some character development because she puts aside her differences with Lena, and she helps Lena defeat Magica. They do work together. So I'll put her at the bottom of pretty good. I think that's a good spot for her. But then we have Skye, the main character of the season. Okay, so Skye is my favorite female Fortnite skin. Sometimes she's my favorite Fortnite skin, sometimes she's not. It goes back and forth between her and Beef Boss, but I think it is her. And I really loved having this character who has so many hints of some deep lore, but actually has no lore. Because I was able, no real lore at least, so I was able to really kind of make this an OC, to be honest, more so than like the head scientist, who is an OC, but he hits so well into his archetype, and then he becomes not an OC whenever he becomes Zomboss, which was the plan for him to become Zomboss from after the first few retcons in Season 1. That was the plan, because Season 1 was, I should have thought out Season 1 a lot more before I started it, but with Season 2 I didn't. I didn't start too early, and same with Season 3 and 4 and 5, because I already have plans for them. So overall, I think that Skye, I could go on and on and on about Skye, but this video is already over an hour long, and I'm sure you'll have seen and heard a lot about her, not only throughout the season, but in this video. She's been talked about in almost every character, like more than half the characters when I've talked about them, at least the contestants, I've talked about Skye as part of it. I mean, even the stuff that I haven't mentioned, like her backstory is some of my favorite lore I've made. Her, all her alliances and friendships, and as they broke down, and how she was already a little sad at the beginning of the season, and in episode 29 of last season, but she's by now, like, you could still tell whenever you first met her, like, she was some quirky gamer girl who was kind of sporadic and happy, and you really don't see that throughout the season 2. Well, you do near the beginning, but like near like the end of season 2, it's just like anger and anxiety and like sadness. So I liked how I just broke this character, and then you still kind of get to see her come around to being her own self near the end, like whenever Sasha gave her the Calamity Stones, and what was supposed to be this big moment of Sasha being like, I can't be trusted with them, and then she's like, okay, and she pops them out and eats them like freaking sour Skittles. But I think that just watching this happen, it was kind of a little bit based off of how Luz was handled in Season 2 and kind of Season 3 of the Owl House. That's where I kind of got that inspiration. And obviously, if y'all seen last season, y'all know I like Luz a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and put Skye at the top. I'm going to say dynamics-wise, I like Ezekiel and Tristan more, but I'm going to put Skye at the top when it comes to just one character, because I feel like she is so far like the main character of... I wouldn't say of the show, but she's the main character of this season. I'd say like the main characters of last season, where I'm probably Monica, and then lose a little bit. But yeah, overall, you can already see that I'm a lot happier with how this season turned out than last season, even though I love last season, because last season I had Luz and Chris in Couldn't Have Been Better. This season I have 6 people and Couldn't Have Been Better. So before I end the video, I just want to go over everything and just make sure I have everyone where I want them to be, because I have been moving people around a lot throughout this video. So Goofy is, I think, the only person I can put and didn't handle well, and Could Have Been Better. The Collector, Vader, Sloan, Jack, and Underpants. I think I'm actually gonna do this. And then Average is the most like mixed tier. I'm gonna put Death above Andreas. I'm gonna put them both above Puss, and above Midas. I'm gonna put Afton behind Death and Ash. I'm gonna move Chef a little higher. Moving on to Pretty Good. I'm gonna put... Actually, no, I'm not gonna put Chef higher. I'm gonna put... I feel like Toga I gave a little too much. So I'm gonna put Toga there. Ann and Marcy. I'm gonna put Ann and Marcy I don't want to really. I'll move him above 2D, but nobody else. Bruce and Graham, yep. I think that's all good. Handled great here. We got these two. Then I think Guinevere, Malik, yep, Jones, Hope, Daisy. I think I'll move Jones down a few spots, just because he didn't do as much, and mainly because I'm gonna actually switch him and the Mimic out because I didn't explore his relationship with Sloane, as I actually plan on making this like these two knew each other long before these two knew each other. That's all I'll say for now, right? And then there's Daisy. Now, I don't think I can put Daisy higher, but I definitely don't want to put her lower. I might put Hope above her. I'll put Hope above Daisy. And then, as we're going to have been better, Sasha feels a little out of place, but we're just talking about lore writing, not screen time, unless you're one of these people. But overall, I think that this is pretty good. Yeah? I feel like, yeah, I was really happy with the Tristan comeback. I was really happy with, honestly, all of these characters. These are probably some of my favorites of the season. Yeah, so I really, really hope y'all enjoyed this season. I think y'all did, and I really hope y'all like the idea of total villain multiverse. But, as y'all know, there's one more thing that's going to be revealed in this episode, and that's who our final 3 villains are. And, y'all might recognize them. Let's get into it. And now introducing our team leaders, Heather, Fiore, and Alejandro. I felt that if we're doing total villain multiverse, we gotta bring back the 3 goats. So, Heather and Alejandro are obviously the best and most iconic villains from Total Drama. While Fiore not only is my favorite Adventure Camp character, but I'd say is widely considered the best villain outside of maybe Spencer. Now, this Fiore is specifically going to be using the Season 5 design, but will not be using the Season 5 character development, because Season 3 will probably be ending around the time the first episode of Season 5 comes out. If not, maybe like 1 or 2 of the episodes will come out. But let me explain, I'll use those episodes as they come out, though. Let me explain what the team leaders means. There is going to be 3 teams of 8 next season. And knowing one, Heather and Alejandro, because Lauren has competed on the same game show, but also knowing this Venture Camp, because she's watched it, that's how she knows about Tristan. Knowing all that, she decided that she would need people to be the team leaders that aren't just batshit insane, but also that aren't like complete idiots when it comes to the game. Which I feel like everybody there is, except for I guess like Daisy and Sasha, but I didn't really want to do that. Also, I needed people that I guess Lauren needed people. I'm using Lauren, but I also needed the people that didn't have pre-existing hatred to be the team leaders, because team leaders will be an important figure and have important jobs to do next season. So I didn't want like Zomboss to be a team leader and then be able to sabotage someone he doesn't like. Or what's a better example? Well, I guess he doesn't like Malik, so that is a good example. Or for like Andreas to be a team leader and then he helps Bowser too much. Now Heather and Alejandro are married at this point. They have both. It's been like 20 years since Island. By this point, if not a little longer. So they're both married. They don't have a kid yet, but Fiore is gonna pretty quickly. You can already see that, right? She might not become their actual kid, but it's going to be a more kind of a Alec thing, but even further. But I am using the Season 5 design because Fiore has already been through Season 1 and through All Stars, but she hasn't been through Season 5 yet. And then what's one last thing I can say? Oh yeah. So Heather, Fiore, and Alejandro are terrible people, but they're still just normal people, right? None of these people have actively murdered people like murdered insane amount of people, like Afton, for example. Afton kills kids for his hobby and his living. Okay? Now, Fiore is a 10-year-old child. So, these three will be given, as well as Sasha and some of the less insane people, will be given ways to deal with that. Because not only do everyone except Sasha, Heather, Fiore, and Alejandro have cross necklaces, yes, even Daisy, but they'll be given other stuff as well. But I'm not going to get into that right now. That's more of a first few episodes of season 3 kind of deal. But overall, I feel like these three are instantly going to become the fan favorites because these are, like, all three of them are absolutely iconic. And also, I brought them in as another reason to get more people to watch Total Drama Multiverse, because it's more so a passion project than anything else, because it is the thing that sadly gets the least amount of views on my channel. So I do want to start promoting it a lot more. I'm about to start making some community posts and all kinds of cool stuff to promote it as I make it better and better. So, yeah, I really hope y'all enjoy this cast, this concept, and I really hope y'all enjoyed last season as well. I can now say season 2 is last season, and I cannot wait to catch y'all in the next one. Actually, in season 3. See ya.